April 2021. We'll begin with our pledge to the flag. I'll ask Mayor Pro Tem Foster if she would please lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Foster. Let the records reflect that everyone is present and accounted for with the exception of Councilman Hale. He is unable to join us this evening. Everything is good. He was just not able to join. We'll begin the meeting with a review of the minutes for the March 3rd and March 8th, 2021 regular meetings. Are there any additions, comments, complaints regarding the minutes as presented to you? All right. With nothing, they will be up for approval on Monday evening. With that, I'm going to open the public hearing. This is for the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget and constant yield tax rate. For those joining from home, you are welcome to call the toll-free dial-in number. It is 1-800-309-2350. The conference ID will be 237-7193. Now that you've had a chance to get a pen and paper, I'll repeat it. 1-800-309-2350. Conference ID 237-7193. I'll watch for anyone joining us. Obviously, with no one else on the call, we're going to continue and keep the public hearing open to see if anyone wishes to speak. With that, I'll move on to asking the council if there's any conflicts of interest on anything on the agenda this evening.
No, sir.
All right. The record reflect no one is conflicted tonight. Resolutions, ordinances, and agreements. Public hearing is still open, but we will discuss Ordinance 02-2021. This is the operating budget for fiscal year 2021-2022. Any questions, comments from council? Anything you'd like to bring up? All right, let me ask Mr. Wieprick, have there been any additional changes to this since we last saw it?
We have not made any changes to the draft so far. We are still waiting for some final figures to come in on the revenue side, but as is often the case, we may end up just amending the budget after adoption since we're shooting to adopt early this year again. But no changes so far.
All right, no changes. Public hearing is still open. I'm going to give that number again for anyone that joined us late. 1-800-309-2350. Conference ID 237-7193. Operators are standing by. Just kidding, I'm the operator. Moving on, Ordinance 03-2021. This is the tax rate for fiscal year 2021-2022. As is our custom, we are keeping our tax rate the same. We have put up the necessary notices the state requires because this is contrary to the constant yield that they have presented to us. As a result, for those tuning in, the rate that we charge for taxes is not going to change. However, the assessment that the state assigns to your house or to your property may change, which would affect your overall tax bill. But we are staying consistent. Any questions from council or comments regarding the tax rate for the upcoming fiscal year? All right. Hearing none, we'll move on to Ordinance 04-2021. This is the water and sewer rate for the upcoming fiscal year. Just like the tax rate, we are holding steady. It will remain at the same level where it has been for 4 years now, 6 years now, 6 years, 4 years, 4, yes. Prior to that, it did have a small decrease. Mr. Wieprick, do you have any additional information regarding water, sewer, particularly utility fund, and the tax, and the rates?
No updates since our budget workshop.
All right, no updates. Comments from council? Anybody? All right. I'm going to throw a phone number out there one last time. No one has called in yet. If you do wish to participate in the public hearing regarding the FY 21-22 budget and tax rate, please feel free to call in at 1-800-309-2350, conference ID 237-7193. With that, we're going to move on to Resolution 2021-06. This is our monthly water allocation, this being for April of 21. Any comments, questions, concerns regarding the water allocation? Councilman Vigliotti.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I know a couple months ago we had talked about how we're going to have to review at some point the available gallons per day, or reassess the amount of water that we can draw. And I was just curious as to whether or not that was a process that we were going to begin at some point soon, or whether this is something that we can, or something that's going to be pushed a little further out.
Mr. Wieprick?
We have had some discussions with the Carroll County hydrogeologist in terms of related to increasing our permit, at particularly well 17, and the process to attach recharge acreage to that well to enable us to increase the appropriation. So we're in the early stages of that. The county has a program currently where they are making available recharge from properties that have gone into a Carroll County agricultural preservation easement. And a number of those properties have a water recharge easement incorporated in that preservation easement. Properties under those easements within our watershed could be made available for recharge credits to Taneytown. Now, they would be limited to certain smart growth oriented uses. But again, we've started open the discussions on that, and hopefully in the next, it will probably be several months before we have anything to put before you, though, anything formal. But we have started the discussions on that topic, as well as on the sewer capacity.
Thank you very much.
And I'm glad Mr. Wieprick brought that up. Keep in mind that the water allocation is one small bit. I think our biggest pressing issue is our sewer capacity at the moment, which is what we're trying to tackle with our I&I projects and such. It's a good point. They are working on the water side, but the sewer definitely needs the biggest attention right now. Any other questions, concerns regarding water allocations? All right. Hearing none, I look back at this screen. There are no callers. With that, I'm going to ask that we close the public hearing unless anyone feels otherwise. All right. With that, public hearing is closed for the evening. We move into our city manager report. Mr. Wieprick, what do you have for us this evening, sir?
Okay, just a couple quick updates. I had a call with the city attorney regarding the Sewell annexation, and we did meet with the Sewells and the potential developers for the property this month. And I'm going to leave most of that for the city attorney to give you more details on, but we are working on the annexation agreement with the owner's attorney, and I am also working on the annexation plan, which will be the document that speaks to how we're going to provide services to the property. So I was able to put an hour or so in on that today, so made some progress there. But the city attorney is going to give you a little more detail on that. Regarding the Trevanian Terrace project, I didn't have an update as of the day we had to submit our council packets, but the Board of Public Works met today, and I understand the grant for the project was supposed to be on the agenda. I have not found out the results of that. I'm assuming that it was approved. So assuming that's the case, the project will go back before the Board of County Commissioners on April 27th, because things have been pushed off the commissioner's agenda because of their budget work for the next couple weeks, or couple weeks. So by the end of the month, we may have a green light for that project to start. So looking forward to that one. And let's see, tied into those stormwater retrofit projects, the Water Resources Coordinating Council has been looking at the memorandum of agreement that relates to our current NPDES report or permit. And we've been operating under an extension of the expired permit going on the second year now since it expired. And the Water Resources Council is looking at trying to separate the memorandum of agreement from the specifics of the NPDES permit so that it won't be tied. We realize that these permits tend to get extended for a year or 2 years, and we're looking at these the cooperation between the municipalities and the county as a long-term commitment. And while the retrofit requirement is expected to drop with the new permit from 20% to 10% or 2% per year for the life of the permit, including any years it gets extended, that was the driving force for the memorandum of agreement that we went into, where we're now all on a joint permit. But where I'm going with all this is that we have a little bit of good news, and that is that the current permit requires a 20% impervious surface retrofit for the jurisdiction. So between the Roberts Mill project that was completed and the Trevanian Terrace project, the city will have addressed over 20% of our impervious area and brought some of those old areas up to current water quality standards. The new permit, which is still in draft form for Carroll County, only will require a 10% retrofit instead of 20. So our cost in our town-county agreement that goes to stormwater is going to drop. Not quite 50%, because there's going to be additional testing and monitoring that are required under the new permit. So the level of effort is going to increase somewhat, but the capital costs for these retrofit projects is going to drop. So we can anticipate receiving more offset from the county with our next town-county agreement. And just to throw a couple of numbers out at you, our current stormwater-related offset is reduced by $68,905. And going forward, we're looking for it only to cost us $39,682. And that would be for the first year of the new agreement, and then it would go up 5% per year to keep up with costs going forward. So a bit of good news there. We can see some relief for the stormwater retrofits, but again, administratively, there's going to be more effort from the county going forward. We're going to have, it sounds like there's going to be additional monitoring and additional testing requirements related to stormwater. So did want to get that before you. So ultimately, that's going to be before you when the town-county agreement is presented. So that's, let's see, not on my report, but I did want to call to your attention in the Department.
Jim, I think you muted yourself.
Thank you. We did the leak detection monitoring. We have the leak detection equipment throughout the city now, and we're working away from that lift and shift approach where we've been getting more and more leak detectors over time. At any rate, we went through there were 9 leaks identified, and those are that's mentioned in the DPW report. We're currently down to 2 leaks. We've managed to resolve most of them. We have one on Frederick Street that's in a lateral line for a dwelling, and we're working with the homeowner on that. And we have one in Deverne Street that we haven't been able to address yet. So we've again, through this leak detection program, we've identified some areas where we were losing water, And we've managed to pretty quickly resolve all but 2, and hopefully those 2 will be resolved in the next week to 2 weeks. So that's really helping us keep our water system tight. And so just wanted to call that one to your attention, because it does talk about there being 9 leaks. Just wanted to let you know we have addressed almost all of them. And the last thing I've got is the Maryland SERI, the Strong Economic Recovery Initiative Main Streets Grant. We should be seeing the funds for that arrive in the next couple of days. So Mish has been working on getting the Main Street businesses to complete the applications. And so we are moving ahead on that, and we should see the funds arrive any day now. And let's see, I think that does it for me, unless anybody has questions.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Weeprick. Any questions? Councilman Vigliotti, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Jim, I'm sure you probably don't have an answer to this evening, but it's interesting you brought up the leak detection in the report from Kevin. I was curious as to whether or not there was a way to be able to determine, I guess the descriptive way would be, the amount of water that was flowing through our system, say last year versus this year, how our system has improved over time. Because you'd mentioned a little while ago, you and the mayor talking about inflow and infiltration. I guess, is there a way or some system of metrics where we can determine how much more proficient our water and sewer system is now versus where it was a year or 2 years ago?
There definitely is. Now, on the wastewater side, it is a little bit, there are more variables because of our inflow and infiltration. So our pumping numbers, actually, I was looking at those. I'm sorry, our flows at the treatment plant. I was looking at those related to the annexation plan I mentioned earlier. And in 2018, we had a very wet year. The state looks at our capacity on a rolling 3-year average for our flows. So in 2018, our average flow was 1.244 million gallons a day. Our plant is only rated at 1.1 million gallons a day. So that really wet year kind of killed us as far as capacity goes, and also compliance. In 2019 was more a moderate year. Our average daily flow was 0.99 million gallons a day. And in 2020, it was down to 0.736 million gallons a day. So part of it's attributable to how much precipitation we get in any given year. But with the O'Brien Avenue Bridge project and the replacement of the old terracotta sewer line that was in that area where the bridge project was, we have realized some I&I reduction just from replacing that relatively short length of pipe of sewer line. So we do track that. We track flows daily and compile things on a monthly and annual basis. So we do keep track of that on the sewer side. Same thing on the water side, but we have fewer variables on the water side. Basically, we have very little use in the city that's not metered in some way. So we do have some accounts that are metered but not billed, but we've added meters where in years past we didn't have them. So we're pretty much to the point where the difference between the gallons that we bill for and the gallons that we pump, any difference is going to be, well, almost any difference will be attributable to a leak somewhere. And that's where that leak detection program comes in. So we have equipment where we can, if we pick up a leak on one of the sensors, we can try to pinpoint it with mobile equipment also. That's how the guys have kind of nailed down this lateral line for a residence on Frederick Street. We're able to keep the system pretty tight that way. But we certainly do, Joe, to give you the short answer, we do have the metrics in place for that. I don't have the gallons for the water side tonight, but if you'd like, I can certainly give you a snapshot of the last couple of years of our production versus billing to see how that's changed over the last few years. I'll have that for you Monday.
Sure. Thank you very much. I'd very much appreciate that. And, I think it's certainly a credit to our guys down in utilities, and then to, deciding to go ahead with these sorts of things that, we're able to tighten up our, proficiency. And yeah, again, thank you very much for that information. I do appreciate that.
All right. Anyone else from council have questions for the city manager on his report or the departmental reports? All right. Hearing none, we'll move on to Mr. Gullo with the legal report. Sir, what do you have for us?
Good evening, everyone. It's been a busy month on a lot of different things. I'm going to follow up with some city manager's stuff that he sent to me. And first, we'll start with Trevanion Terrace. We finally have worked out the issues with the court, despite all of COVID, and the deed has been prepared to transfer it from the county to us and is being submitted to the county. So we will at least have it in our name at that point in time, because that's holding up our ability to give easements that are necessary for the project moving ahead. So that has at least made it past that. So I don't anticipate any problems. It's just a matter of working through the admin now. The Sewell annexation that the city manager talked about, we've been negotiating this for some time, and we finally came up with a theory that I think all the parties are agreeable to about how to do it. And so I wanted to explain how we're headed, so that if you have any major problems, we can stop how we're headed and kind of do something different. So here's the theory. When the Sewells came to you a while back saying, we want to build out there, they gave you a plan, they gave you some ideas, they gave you a drawing of what it was going to look like and the number of houses and things like that. And they said, we want to annex in and we want to do all this stuff. And we want to agree to all this stuff, meaning I'll use the technical terms, all the finished products in the final lot. We want to agree to everything up front. So we don't want to start the process until we have an agreement about what the end product will be. And the more we went on, the more that's not in anyone's best interest. Okay, and you would think it would be, because you think you'd know what you're getting and they know what they're promising. But these promises, as you've seen with other developers, they don't last the test of time. Not for any bad reasons, but what we promise today might not be the things they build 5, 6, 7 years from now when they're actually building. And then we have to redo everything. The other issue that we have is if we promise capacity to them, which is the big key, then if they don't build, that capacity is tied up with them. And so it's kind of like, ordering a table at a restaurant, no one else gets to eat at that table and it sits vacant and nobody pays for dinner. So what we want to do is we want to take the long process, and instead of pushing it together to agree to everything up front, we want to spread it all apart. And here's the component parts of how we would do that. We would have an annexation agreement that would be negotiated that would deal with generalities, okay? It would not promise capacity. One of the issues that you know about is that we don't really have it today to promise, but that's okay because they're not going to need it for many years to come. But we don't want to promise it before they're in, okay? We would link that capacity to a plan that gets approved by the Planning Commission, either at concept phase or a preliminary phase, just like any other plan. So if you can imagine, that would be like step 3, and we're on step 1. And they understand that as well. To further go down that hole, we've always done development rights and responsibility agreements. We think that's the appropriate place to nail down capacity. And you wouldn't do one of those until the Planning Commission says, this is the development that we're good with. And that would be between concept and preliminary phase. So if we take that out of the annexation process, then we come back to, well, we need to get the zoning right. Right now, it would be, it's in the growth area for a designation of R20, and they would like R10. So the zoning waiver, and we've talked about that before, but that's a process. That process can't even start until the annexation process starts. So you see where this is all leading, is that we need to get the annexation done with less details so we can move towards the others. The other issue is the water and sewer master plan amendment. You remember what we went around and round through Taneytown crossing, trying to amend the water and sewer master plan. We can't, and we kind of don't want to amend the master plan to say they're in the service area until they're annexed into town, because that would be us guaranteeing them capacity when they wouldn't basically have the obligation to build. So all of that said, we're going to have a stripped down annexation agreement. It's going to have some key components about zoning. It's going to have components about the road, because remember, the master plan shows a major collector road through that property. It would say that that has to be addressed. And it would have some other issues. And then the annexation would move, they would go through the annexation process. It might be finalized by fall this year. Then they could come and ask for you for the community village zoning and go from there. So that's the plan that we're coming up with. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Any questions from council on this topic? All right, if we're relatively clear and comfortable with what's going on,
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Do they know that we're anticipating such a plan?
Yes, we've had the negotiations with them and set those expectations. And I think everybody, including the builder, they all understand that. The builder right now is NVR, and they're agreeable. We just haven't worked out the details.
Okay. And also, you said that we don't want to promise them capacity up front because they won't need it for a while.
Right.
Is there any chance
Right.
that down the road?
Our thought. Well, I guess would have, and they would have, is that we don't have capacity when they get here if we don't promise them that they're going to have it when they need it. And we kind of understand each other, us and the developers, that we're not going to do it until they come forward with a plan to put through the planning commission, and that our planning commission is agreeable to the plan. And then we can talk capacity. So arguably they could be at that spot in 6 months, but it would be the horse before the cart, or the cart before the horse, if we tried to do that today. Does that answer your question?
Mayor Pro Tem, you're muted.
I think what I wanted to know, is there any chance that down the road we don't have the capacity? We're not able to, keep our promise, so to speak.
That is possible. It's probably not probable, because it's more likely that we would know more. Right now, what the city manager told you about the fixes to fix with I&I are projected fixes. So we'd be giving capacity today based on a projection, but say 6 months, a year and a half, we would know that the fixes he's planning actually work, and then they wouldn't be projected, they would be actual. So the downside is, if they don't work, we won't have capacity to give. But the upside is, we're glad we didn't promise them, because we didn't have it to give after we did all the work, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
Okay, if there's no more questions on that, the last issue that we've been dealing with this month, and I say we because it's not really me, it's really Clara, is the election. And as you know, the election is coming up. We've had one meeting with our ethics board to review all of the candidates' ethics filings and campaign finance filings. All the candidates are self-funding candidates, which, as you know, under our campaign finance laws, means they cannot raise money through contributions and are limited in the amount that they can spend. That makes it easy for the ethics board and the election board. The election board had one meeting to certify the candidates, and Claire is going to tell you about that in a minute. We are having one more election board meeting to have like training on the machines and the process, and then the big day in May. So Clara is going to tell you a little bit about the candidates and about the absentee procedures. So Clara, take it away.
Okay, as Jay said, our election board did meet on March 30th and certified 4 candidates for the office of council member for the May 3rd election. The candidates are Barbara Cook, Diane Foster, Judith Fuller, and Joseph Vigliotti. I did also want to just take a minute to remind residents that absentee ballots are going to be available starting on Monday. Registered voters will need to complete a request for an absentee ballot. Those forms are available at City Hall Monday through Friday from 8 to 4:30, or the request can be printed from our website, and those can be submitted to City Hall, or they can be mailed.
And that's, if you have any other questions on elections, we can field them for you. But that concludes that report and my overall report, unless you have other questions.
All right. Questions from members of council on the elections or any other legal issue as discussed this evening? All right. Everything's clear. Very good. With 4 candidates vying for 3 seats, I wish the best to everyone. We have just a little under a month, I guess, before the election. So I encourage everyone in the city to please make sure you come out and vote in the election. I believe it's May 5th. Does that sound right? May 3rd. May 3rd. Come out and vote at the police station, 7 to 7. More on that. Make sure you're following the City of Taneytown's social media pages, as well as individual council members or my own regarding that information. No other questions from the council on legal or election? No. All right. Thank you, Mr. Gullo and Clerk Common, for your efforts there. Old business, nothing. New business. Monthly financial report is presented to you. Any questions on the monthly financials? No. They will be up for approval on Monday. And likewise, the accounts payables are presented to you as well. Any questions on those? No. Councilman Vigliotti.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Mayor. I just I wanted to ask one quick question, and I guess it would have come under old business, and I guess I might have missed that. We talked a couple months ago about pursuing, I guess, an amendment to talk about the limits of emergency powers for city managers. And I was just wondering whether or not that was something we were going to pursue in the near future, in the next few months.
I believe the overall.
It's on my to-do list.
There you go.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yep, still forthcoming. All right, anything else before we move to the next item? All right, lastly, under new business, we have a special event approval. FSK Athletic Boosters Bull and Oyster Roast, scheduled to take place May 22nd at Memorial Park. The information necessary is in your packets. Anyone have any questions or concerns regarding this event? Nope. Okay. That will be up for your approval Monday evening as well. And depending on what's going on with the world, we'll kind of determine how that event takes place. With that, I want to say just a couple of things. First off, after last month's meeting, unfortunately, the City of Taneytown lost another important member of our community and our kind of local government. That was Mr. George Naylor. He passed away, I believe it was March the 9th. He was a member of our planning commission. He served for the city in many different capacities for many, many years. World War II veteran. He was an amazing man. He will be missed. He worked diligently for this city up until the time of his passing. So I just want to make the community aware of that. Mr. George Naylor will be missed by everybody. It's made it a rather difficult year already with the passing of former Mayor Flickinger and now Mr. Naylor. Let's hope that's it. I do also want to mention For those that saw in the news, the city of Frederick experienced an active shooter incident yesterday. It's one of those where you hear about it all across the country, and when it gets closer and closer like this, just in a neighboring county, it can be rather disconcerting. So I want everyone to know our police are always ready to handle situations that come up. Should it ever happen here, I have all the faith in the world that we have the appropriate officers and people to take care of these things. But do keep members of the Frederick community in your thoughts and prayers as they struggle through something that few think would ever happen in their communities. Lastly, from me, a legislative update. Sign and die is, I believe, Monday. They're just about finished with the session. It was a very unique session this year with the state. Had an update this morning through legislative committee. A lot of the bad bills that we opposed from an MML standpoint were defeated. Either they didn't make crossover or they just simply died in committee, which is exciting. Some of the things that they're still trudging along with, I know there are some police reform bills. At one point there were 9. They've now combined them down into 4 police reform bills, and they really are all over the place. The local election bills were all either withdrawn or didn't make crossover, which is a very good thing. Something we don't want the state to come in and tell us how to handle certain things. And that's really the bulk of it. Overall, good news so far. Again, session is coming to an end here very shortly. I encourage you to follow the delegates and our senator throughout the rest of the session. Follow them on social media, reach out to them, then give you some other updates. But right now, they're working some long days to get down to the end here. That's all I have for the evening. With that, I make sure no one did call in, so public hearing was closed quite a while ago. We're good to move on. With that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn until Monday evening.
So moved.
All right, do I have a second?
Who are you going to give to? I'll
All right,
second.
very good. Mayor Pro Tem Foster made the motion then. Councilwoman Fuller provided the second. All in favor of adjourning for the evening, signify with your thumbs up. Any opposed? All right, I don't have a gavel, but we're adjourned. Thank you very much. Have a great night.